Hey guys, another video where I'm just going to talk unscripted about an episode from a few seasons ago, the last Roundup. Um, it's weird. I decided to do this basically because I hadn't seen many reviews of this from any people online. Strawberry Skunk, he reviewed every episode from season 2 except this one. This was the one episode he didn't want to review. And I was kind of puzzled. I was kind of curious as to why maybe people weren't reviewing it. And I think I probably have the answer, having now rewatched it too. It's kind of a difficult episode to say anything about, really. It's a very sort of bland and uninteresting, basic kind of story, really. I mean, it's written by Amy Keaton Rogers, and it has, a lot of her sort of standard kind of comedy in it. It's got Pinky being Pinky. It's got a lot of little fun like sequences, and just you know, pop culture reference to I Love Lucy, and the chase at the end and everything. Um, and I kind of wonder from watching this episode if maybe somebody else wrote the basic setup or story to this episode, and they gave it to Amy Keaton Rogers for her to sort of write into a script, and she just inserted her comedy into it because basically, as a basic kind of story, it's kind of uninteresting, really. You remove Pinky being Pinky. You remove the little fun sequences with the cherry sorting and the chase at the end, and a couple of other scenes of comedy going on. I suppose the opening title sequence with her running around the rodeo, fun little just action sequence, and you just boil it down to the basic kind of story. Really, it's very very bland and kind of uninspired and really not particularly interesting. Applejack basically just decides to go to a rodeo to earn some prize money, basically, and doesn't come back. So the other five go and find her. And for a long time, you kind of, I don't remember if I was actually thinking this first time watching, but I was sort of thinking rewatching this, if I didn't know what was going to happen, I think I actually would be kind of confused as to where they were going with the plot of the episode, because you have Applejack going to the rodeo, and you're thinking, oh, it's going to be about Applejack at the rodeo. We're going to see her at the rodeo and see her succeed there. That'll be fun. No, we don't see the rodeo. So then it's like, oh, Applejack's disappeared. She's gone off somewhere else. So it's going to be a mystery story. We're going to go through the entire story, figuring out clues and trying to find stuff out, which, oddly enough, is a Amy Keaton Rogers episode from later that season, Mystery on the Friendship Express. No, it wasn't this episode at all. She turns up about midway through the episode, just like that, basically. A moment when you least expect her to just turn up. She turns up. So it's like, oh, they're going to talk to Applejack. They're going to gradually sort of find stuff about where she's been and what she's been up to. And so I think, no, she just simply won't talk to them, and then they find everything else. They find everything out at the very end. There's a lot of sort of convoluted kind of, not sure where it's going kind of structure. It's kind of a sloppy kind of structure to the episode. It's a lot of, oh, we're taking it in this direction. No, we're not. We're taking it this direction. Oh, I tell you what, no, let's go this way. Let's go that way. It doesn't really seem to sort of know where it's going. And I think maybe Amy Keaton Rogers saw this in the basic, storyline for this episode, which, I don't know, obviously, you have to assume, because it's the only name in the credits for the writing of this, you have to assume she came up with the idea. But I kind of wonder maybe if someone else came up with the basic idea, and she just decided that there was so little real structure or flow to the pacing of the episode that she maybe decided, just to try and pad it out with a bit of comedy, with Pinkie Pie and, those fun action sequences, which I liked. That was probably the only real enjoyable part about the episode, is just, the Pinky stuff, the I Love Lucy sequence, with the sherry sorting, and, the two action sequences that we get there. But those are really just sort of fun moments on their own, really. They're enjoyable enough, but they don't really add anything to the, narrative or the story as a whole, really. The actual story is very uninteresting, very bland, and very kind of, just get on with it. Where the hell are you going with this? So, a lot of it is just sort of confusion and not really knowing what the hell's going on a lot of the time. Then we get to the moral at the end, and the moral actually was kind of interesting. It's kind of a case of Applejack sort of felt she was under a lot of pressure to succeed at this rodeo and win a lot of blue ribbons. And she perhaps was faced with a bit of a dilemma, and you kind of wonder at first, did she decide not to tell her friends about what had happened because she felt embarrassed, humiliated about the fact that she had failed? She didn't want to own up to this failure or something? Or is it perhaps more a case of, this is kind of something I can relate to, is she doesn't want her friends to get involved in this problem. You kind of are in a situation sometimes where people say, a problem shared is a problem halved. But then when you sort of think about it a bit more, do you even want to subject your friends to the burden of even dealing with these kind of problems? You don't want to sort of feel, you don't want your friends to sort of feel like they're partly responsible or something. You don't want to sort of dump the burden of a problem onto your friends and use them as a shoulder to cry on. You don't want to give them that kind of pressure. You feel you're up to dealing with this problem on your own. And you don't want to sort of, you feel like it's selfish to, force your friends to deal with the problem as well. So it's kind of sort of two different kind of reasons, I think, maybe why Applejack has decided not to share this problem with her friends. Ultimately, though, really, the episode as a whole doesn't really focus on that. It kind of makes me kind of more frustrated about this episode, really, that was actually kind of an interesting idea that we see at the very end of the episode, really, because if the entire episode had focused on that as an idea, Applejack feeling like she'd failed and not wanting to admit to the fact that she'd failed, and also not wanting to subject her friends to, or sharing this problem with her friends, not wanting to give them that kind of pressure. Those are some interesting ideas, and if the actual episode as a whole had been about those ideas, I think it would have been a brilliant episode. But as it is, it's just sort of squeezed into the last few minutes, and it's, the episode as a whole is just a whole sort of wandering around, not really sure what's going on or where you're going with this kind of story. It's the only real sort of fun part of you can get out of the episode is just these little fun sequences that are just sort of fun on their own. That's really the only kind of good I can get out of this episode. Really, is just the the Pinky stuff and the comedy and a bit of the action, I suppose, at the end. But the story as a whole, I take nothing from it. And before I finish here, there's a couple of other things I'm going to quickly cover. Of course, Derpy has a speaking role in this, and they controversially changed her voice later. I wasn't really all that excited about Derpy in the first place, to be honest, so it didn't really bother me too much. But I was happy to see that the actual version of this I found online is the original Derpified version, with Rainbow Dash actually using her name and everything. So that was kind of nice. It does still exist out there on the internet. The other thing I want to talk about is a large criticism you often see from this episode is the fact that Applejack lies in this episode when she's supposed to be the element of honesty. And to me, that's not a problem, really, because I actually don't really like the idea that each of the main six represent an element of harmony. And the reason for that is, just consider for a moment, say the elements of harmony were not a part of the show, or the idea that the main six represent elements of harmony wasn't a part of the show. You'd never been told that Applejack was the element of honesty. Would you have considered Applejack a very honest kind of character? Would you say to someone who'd never seen the show, oh, Applejack, she's really honest? No, the only reason you think that Applejack should be honest is because you've been told she's the element of honesty. There's nothing really organic about the development of her character over the course of the show that has enabled you to sort of understand or think to yourself that she's an honest character. You've just been told she's the element of honesty, so you just assume she has to be honest. So that's really why I don't like this idea that the main six each represent an element of harmony. It's kind of sort of artificial character development in a way. We're just told that's what they are, so we're just supposed to assume from that point on. Character development to me is something you're supposed to sort of figure out for yourself. You're supposed to sort of watch the character and sort of grow over the course of time to sort of understand who they are and what they're like. And, this is the complete sort of opposite of that kind of character development. We're just told she's the element of honesty, and therefore we just assume that's what she's supposed to do. But no, I don't really like that idea at all to begin with, really. So I don't really take much stock in the idea that Applejack should be honest here. I mean, the elements of harmony aren't even mentioned in this episode, really. I don't think that that's particularly important that she maintain her element of harmony, in episodes where they're not even relevant to the plot. So no, again, it's a continuity error. shows full of continuity errors. You know, we'd be here all day if we were complaining about things like that all the time. So no, to me that's not an issue, I don't think. You know, I mean, there are elements of harmony, I think, that they represent that are, I would say, part of their character. I do consider Pinkie Pie the element of laughter because, you know, she does make people laugh a lot. I do consider Fluttershy a very kind character. And I do consider Twilight the element of magic because, you know, she's very good at magic. But Applejack, is she a very honest character from what I've seen of her? No, certainly not. So that didn't bother me at all. But the episode as a whole, very kind of bland and uninteresting, and it's kind of saved by Amy Keaton-Rogers' comedy, really. That's really the only reason I think I go back and watch this episode, just for the comedy it has. So yeah, that's the last roundup, guys. See you soon.